Right.
Before we begin, I just want to go over just like how we're gonna go about things. So we are, so you gave us permission before, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, great, beautiful, amazing. So we're just gonna try to start off just with like everyone introducing ourselves, what our like group is, and then you're gonna be able to introduce yourself after that, and then we'll get into the questions, okay?
Sounds good.
Would you like any water or anything?
Please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me get you some water.
Thank you.
Get started.
So, you already did that, right? Yeah. Okay. So my name is Juanita, and I am the youth lead organizer for Play It Forward. We have been communicating back and forth, so thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. So we are going to allow, so if you don't know, 482 Forward is an education justice organization. We do have a youth collective, hence the students who are online with us, who are part of the youth collective. And what we do is to fight for education justice, and our youth ensure that education is equitable in our schools, and they stand up for things that they want to see in schools. So I want to pass it on to Sarah to do an introduction, and then if our students online want to do an introduction.
So my name is Sarah. I'm an intern with 482 Forward. I've been working with 482 Forward since I was in volunteering since I was 16, 15. Now I'm 21. I'm going into my master's program. And my pronouns are she, her, hers.
I'm Lindsay Matson. I use she, my pronouns, and I'm the deputy director of the organization for 482 Forward. I'm going to be kind of like taking pictures, like that kind of stuff, mostly like behind the scenes for today. And then you can also be one speaking.
Hafiza and Azali, can you introduce yourselves, please?
Hello, my name is Azali. I'm part of the 482 Forward Youth. I graduated. I was in DPS schools from elementary to middle school. And then I left to do homeschooling. But now I'm here. I've been with 482 Forward just for the summer. I've just started. So yes.
All right. Thank you.
My name is Hafiza. I use she or they pronouns. I'm a lifelong Detroiter. I am a rising senior at Cass Technical High School. I have attended DPS my entire life. I went to Davison for elementary and middle school here on the east side. I'm a community organizer, and I also am one of the youth organizers with 482 Forward. And I'm also like pretty much all around the community with other community organizations as well. But yeah, that's me.
All right.
So now that you know who we are and our folks, could you please share your name and pronouns for the record, and what's your connection to DPSCD and why you decided to run?
Yes, so my name is Ridgeley Hudson Jr. I'm a graduate of DPSCD all the way from elementary, middle, high school, attended several schools without the community, Ralph Bunch, Hudson Howell, Nichols Elementary, Middle School, then Martin Luther King Jr. High School, which I believe is the best. We got some technicians around, but and then I had an opportunity to come back and work in the district while attending college. And so I think that was one of the most intricate parts of my advocacy. So when I was in 5th grade, I remember walking into a classroom, sitting on a crate. And so my teacher at that time was a DFT rep. So she rallied with the Detroit Federation of Teachers, and she took a couple students with her. And so I was one of those students. So I have pictures at 10 years old with my fist up in Lansing. I have a video of me arguing with a legislator in Lansing on behalf of the students to ensure that we have better learning conditions for our students, better pay for our teachers, and overall just better resources for our school system. So then I worked at Martin Luther King for about 4 years, and then I was promoted to work at an alternative school called Detroit Lions Academy, which is also with Detroit Public Schools, and so helped try to change the school culture. And so I was at a meeting with some parents, and they were just riled up with some of the decisions that were made in the last couple months. And some of the parents said, why don't you run? You do the work, you work with the current school board, you work with the superintendent, you know kind of how the operation goes. So why don't you run for the school board? And so I sat back and thought about it, and I said, oh, okay, we'll see how it goes. And so right after my birthday in July, we had some issues. And so I said, okay, I'll give it a shot and I'll run. And at that time, it wasn't 15 people in the race. It was only about 6 people in the race. And so, of course, we've heard of 9 additional people, but it's been a good journey thus far. And I've rallied and talked to several parents, students, principals, and teachers along the way. And it's been exciting.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just gonna start off and going into our interview questions. So my first question for you is, I'm sure we have open board meetings for the DPSCD board for parents and students in town, and we also have the PTA association. But as a board member, how would you further the involvement of parents and especially students in decision making for the school board?
Well, just like you all invited me to the table, invited other board members to the table, I think the most important thing is when we make decisions about individuals, that we invite them to the table and we have discussions and we look at their input, and then we actually apply it to what our plans are. And so what I think happened these past few months, and a lot of parents are outraged, is that there was a plan, a blueprint about how they were going to close schools or how they were going to, revamp schools and things like that. But too many people or not enough people were involved in that decision-making process. And so what I believe is important is if I'm making a decision that's going to affect a certain group, let's involve that group. And let's try more than one time to communicate with that group of people. Maybe the day that we had it wasn't good enough for everybody. So let's try to make some attempts to engage that community. And so, like you said, if we make a decision that affects students, let's bring our students to the table. If we make a decision that affects our teachers, let's invite our teachers to the table. Let's have a conversation.
Thank you for that answer. Zaylee, you want to go ahead and ask the next one?
Okay, hello, I already introduced myself. So we know that the school board has a policy in place about the possession of weapons in schools, but there's an exception to weapons under the control of law enforcement personnel and items approved by the building principal as part of class or presentations. So in light of the issues involving gun violence that we've seen recently, do you think that the policy should change to not allow any weapons in or around schools by anyone?
Well, I believe that our campus police officers are important. They are essential. And I believe that they are the reason why we have not had as much violence as compared to other cities as it pertains to, mass shootings or school shootings, et cetera. However, the superintendent and the school board kind of wiped out the campus police officers. So now students and the community people can walk into the schools freely. Some of the metal detectors are not working. Some schools don't have metal detectors. And it's creating a problem because we've seen, several schools have threats. We've seen several school buildings or students walk into the school buildings with weapons, and it's not safe. And so that's one of the things that is on my platform is discussing safety, finding a way to bring our campus police officers back, maybe have a different face, maybe have a different way of work, but bringing them back in a space where we know that our students can feel safe, because we know that if our students do not feel safe, that it's hard for them to learn, and it's hard for our teachers to teach if they don't feel safe as well. And so safety should be always our number one priority.
All right, thank you for asking that. Just as a follow-up, though, I know you just stated your opinion on police in the schools, but do you feel like there is more of a root cause to the gun violence that we see besides just putting police officers into schools?
Well, there may be another root cause. However, I think that the way that things has been going has not also, I think she's frozen here. Is she frozen on your screen?
You're frozen for me.
Keep talking. Okay. So I think there may be a root cause. However, our approach is everything. And so maybe it's, revamping how our police department was working. Maybe it's saying, hey, because with the schools that I've worked at and some of the people that I knew who were officers actually spent time mentoring the young people. So I started a program when I was at King High School, and it kind of went over to several other schools. The officers actually had opportunities for people to come in and talk to them, share things with them, whether it was they were being bullied or whether. And so we just need to put a whole new face on. We need a reconstruction of the police department. I love the way that they call it now public safety. That is a good idea, but they don't have any officers inside the building. So we saw an issue that we had at East English Village where it took an hour for officers to get to the school because of something happening. And so now teachers were hurt. The principal was actually hurt. Several students were hurt. And that's just not the way that we want our school system to be ran. That's just not how it's supposed to go. Now you asked, do I think that there's another root cause? It may be. And I was in a meeting the other day, and one of the things that we talked about was bringing back some of the old classroom learning experiences. So we had real life experiences there, like wood shop, and students learned how to cook and sew and all of those things, which I believe too could be a root cause, because now it's just academics and math, science, reading. And so I believe that we should also implement some of those real learning opportunities back into the classroom.
Okay. Thank you for your answer. So you would agree that the police in schools needs a reface where they are not technically harassing the students as we see now, but instead actually protecting the students.
Protecting them and building relationships with them. And so, there has been a lot of stories of police in other schools who have been harassing students, or that they have said to be harassing students. But what I'm saying is, and I agree, and on my end, what I saw was actual officers mentoring, spending time engaging with students far above the level of what we see or know to be on TV or what we have heard in other communities. And so I think as an educational sector, what is important as we learn, if we learn how to deal with officers in a school setting, then it'll be better off to learn to deal with them in the street and in the community. And so I think that it starts in the school setting, and I think that's important.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
So I would just like to add the shooting that happened in Uvalde, where there have been reports that have been coming out that police officers were there, but they kept making excuses. They were saying, no, we're waiting on this to break the door. They received that, they went and took a coffee break. Then they just waited in the hallways. They didn't do anything. And video clips were publicized, and they were exposed that these officers did, in fact, not only did they waste time when they could have been saving students, but parents went in there and they saved their kids and they brought them out alive. And so the role of law enforcement there was not helpful. And this was in an active shooting. And so I guess my question is, what are pre-active measures that we can take? And law enforcement is not really a pre-active solution. It's more so a reactive solution. And when we see shootings happen, we put police in the buildings. But what do we do to protect kids from even getting to the point where they are so mentally exhausted, so drained, to the point where they take their anger, and they take the anger by shooting bullets out of a gun and killing their classmates? And so what are things that we can do to prevent shootings rather than take out the shooter when it actually occurs?
Yeah, so actually one of the things that's on my platform is mental wellness. So a lot of candidates may be talking about mental health, but let's talk about mental wellness. We're just coming out of a pandemic. We have so many students, so many teachers who have been affected by, death, or, just sitting here on Zoom for 8 hours a day is rough in itself. And so there are so many challenges post-pandemic. And so we have to address those needs first. And so we've seen, and I mean, and the mass shootings does not just occur because of the mental health piece, but I believe that is a major issue that we're facing now. And so that's what we saw when we saw several schools was threatened. And thanks to Kim Worthy, she handled those situations, but we just don't know the trueness or the realness of every situation. But back to your point, I think that we should require a specific training for our officers. I think that we should provide resources for our students. So that's like I said, that's one of the things that's on my platform, is providing mental wellness support for our students, their families, and our staff, because it's important that we make sure we meet the needs of our students. But why meet the needs of our students and send them home and those needs are not being met? And so we need to meet the need of the whole child and the whole family. And so, like I said, talking about mental wellness, providing resources within the school setting. Just like the superintendent said, we're fully staffed. That's not true. We have several schools that have vacancies, several schools who do not have the necessary staff members that's needed to to provide those resources for our students as it pertains to mental health and mental support, mental wellness support. And so back to, like I said, talking about mental wellness, improving the training for our officers, improving training for our teachers, because again, everything starts with building relationships. If I don't have a relationship with my teacher or any staff member in my school, therefore I cannot come to them with any issue that I'm experiencing at home or in school or elsewhere.
So I would just like to add two things right here. One, the annual DPS survey that was presented at the school board in July did record that 27% of high school students felt loved, understood, heard by their teachers. And so one thing they stressed was building relationships, which is something that you're talking about a lot. So I would love for you to expand on that. But I also want to add that the counselor rate in DPS is 1 per 500 students for elementary and middle school, and 1 per 400 in high school, which is not enough. As a DPS student, I would tell you right now, we had around 700 kids in my elementary and middle school combined. And our counselor was never around. She was always doing something, never got a chance to talk to her at all. All she was doing was like sending out transcripts for the 8th graders. And so completely absent, no mental support at all. We barely had a nurse who was there. And so what are your plans to improve on that? And also if you can speak a little bit about how you plan on building those relationships as well.
Yes, so building relationships is the most important thing, no matter what position, just like anything else, any job, any relationship, I mean, any experience, you need to build relationships. And so one thing that I know that I'm committed to is accessibility, being accessible, being able where parents, teachers, staff can call you at any time, and you're able to answer and you're able to provide what they need. And so building relationships is just starting off with communication. Having a conversation about an issue, having a conversation about something, being able to find a solution to the problem. And so that has always been who I have been. And if you look back in the archives of Facebook and everything else, there's always been where parents reached out and said, hey, where do I get this? Where do I find this? Who do I talk to for this? And it's always been there. And my phone number is there. People have been calling. My phone is still ringing about school starting back, who to contact, who's the principal at school. And so all those things are important. And so people feel safe when they have a relationship with you. And I think that that's important for our teachers to understand as well, because if a teacher is teaching 30 students in a classroom, unfortunately, that's just how it is nowadays with teachers teaching that many students. However, if they're teaching 30 students in a classroom, it is important that they build relationships with each student so they can know when the student's not feeling well, when the student is experiencing a bad time, when the student is really down, because those moments are important so we can focus on and give attention to that student's needs, or we can send that student to a counselor. But we can't do that, as you said, if we have 500 students to one counselor. And I've advocated for counselors on many levels because, again, my aunt was a counselor and she was my counselor in high school. And so, again, and it was the same way. I would go in thinking she's my aunt, so I can go see my aunt. But again, it was her duties, and we had to separate that. But then I was frustrated because I had to wait 3 days to even have a conversation with my counselor. And so I think that one of the things that we should do moving forward is hire more counselors, especially in this post-pandemic era. Hire more counselors, hire more social workers, and hire more people to be resources to our students, because we're not at this point putting our students first, yet we say that, but we're not, because the resources are not there for our students. So I believe in building those relationships, partnerships with our students, parents, community, because again, it takes a village to raise a child, and we must be that village. As a school board member, as a school district, we must be that village and hold our part of the bargain.
Thank you for your answer. Our next question is just in reference to the curriculum. In what ways do you think DPSCD should make the school curriculum more diverse and representative of the student body?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I was just discussing is that each school was known for its own uniqueness. So especially when I'm talking, what I'm talking about is high schools, because I worked in high school. But in every school is known, every community is known for its uniqueness. And so now it's kind of being shifted to, we're going to make everyone one size fit all, which is not the case. It should never be the case. And so, Cass Tech was known for its robust curriculum. You know, everybody knew Cass Tech, everybody knew Renaissance, everybody knew King, everybody knew Southeastern was known for its own. And so I think that we should get back to that. And I think also, like I said earlier, that we should implement real life experiences in our learning experience. Because if, you know, I have a student that now goes to Ferndale High School. And so Ferndale is teaching them other type of curriculum. So they're learning how to sew. So she's getting ready to start her sewing business. So I don't have to go to the cleaners anymore, because I go to her and say, hey, can you sew my pants? And those are just things that we need, especially when we're talking about entrepreneurship and business. We need those real life opportunities provided to us, just like VOTEC. I love the VOTEC career centers. I believe that our students as early as middle school should be exposed to those things. So they'll know by high school where they want to go, what route they want to take as far as it pertains to their secondary educational or learning experience. So I think that we should, like I said, broaden that scope of experience to every student in Detroit Public Schools and allow them to pick and choose what route they want to take as they move upward and onward.
I think also the youth were thinking about when we're talking about race and gender and religion and that type of diversity as well, because I do like what you're saying about VOTEC and about you know, having more real life skills, but also thinking about like race, gender, sexual orientation,
Absolutely.
religion, that type of stuff. How else do you think the curriculum could be expanded?
Well, I think that, you know, it's all about student choice. It's all about, so if at the end of the day, if I invite the students to come have a conversation with us, while we're in the process of making decisions, then we can say, hey, how do you feel? Tell us, what do you want? Tell us, what do you think is necessary? And so just like, you know, we've had in June, we had the Gay Pride Parade or the rally. I think those things are necessary, you know, and I think that it shows that we care and that we support you in whatever orientation, whatever race you have or you are. I believe that those things are necessary, and it's really quite, it speaks to the values that we have and the morals that we have as a district. And so I think that it's very important that we say, hey, we support you. We may not be you know, that, or we may not represent that, but we represent you because together we're one and we represent each other. And so we support you, and we're going to fund whatever we think that is necessary to, you know, show that support to you and your community. And so I agree. I love it. Just like I was there in June. I don't necessarily, you know, represent that community, but I was there because those students are there and they're just as important to us as any other community. And so I think they are important. I think that all of that should be implemented into the curriculum, especially if we're talking about learning those things. And if we identify as such, then let's get an opportunity to meet them where they are and have that implemented.
Yep. Okay. So my next question is, what is your stance on the current uniform policy in DPSCD alongside the strict dress code?
So I actually, so a lot of students have been reaching out to me about free dress. And I think that that is, if that's what they want, that's what they should have. I mean, I have a niece that goes to Southfield A&T. They have free dress. And I don't think that there's an issue with school culture there. And so a lot of individuals say, well, you know, it messed up the school culture. Then somebody may be left out because they don't have the designer clothes. And I think really free dress will allow students to actually show, because we have a lot of talented students. I had a student that made their own clothes. And so I think it is opportunity for them to show what the skills that they have. I'm not a Jordan's person, so it won't hurt me to see another student on with Jordan. So, but at the end of the day, I think it creates more challenges when we say, hey, you got to wear black slacks, white collar shirts, you know. And even as a culture facilitator and a culture person at my school, I advocated, hey, we have a lot of athletes. We have a school athletes. Let them wear jogging pants, you know. And so then it created a problem. But then now, as we enter into another school year, they're saying, okay, we're going to let them wear jogging pants. But I think, free dress is something that I believe that we can implement. I think that it may not cause a culture issue or a problem. And then if we see that, then maybe we'll have to figure out how to, you know, go back that way. But I think that it's needed for a try. It's good for a try. And then it creates an opportunity opportunity for students to say, I want to come to school when it's free dress. I remember times when we used to do it in middle school, we'll have $1, on Friday, everybody pay $1 to come free dress. Everybody came to school that day, on count day. We use it as on count day as a, come to school free dress. Everybody want to show up. So why not do it every day where we know that we can have, we're talking about chronic absenteeism. Okay, this is a way that we could pivot from that. And so I appreciate that question. That's something I'm going to talk about within my platform. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your answer.
Hafiza, would you like to ask the next question?
Yes. DPSCD just, no, wait, sorry. Yes, DPSCD, okay, sorry. In DPSCD schools, we have many families from diverse backgrounds. We have a lot of immigrant families, a lot of families that don't speak English, that are from different ethnic backgrounds. And so how would you plan to increase language accessibility and translation services within DPSCD schools and communication with these families?
Well, the first thing, thank you for that question. The first thing is let's hire the people. We've had so many resources. We have so much money that was funded through the federal government through this COVID-19 pandemic that we could use it for the right things. People are constantly arguing about where to spend the money. We have the resources. Let's put our students first. And so I think that it's important, just like I was having a conversation with a group of students from Western High School. And Western High School is the only high school in Southwest Detroit. And we have lost thousands of students to Ecorse, Melvindale, Allen Park, and downriver. And I advocated when the plan first came out, hey, let's build another high school in Southwest Detroit. And then we can have more focus on the Spanish background and those in that community. But I was ignored during that time period then. And so I think, as you said, we should hire more translators, especially in those populations. First, we need to survey our schools to know, okay, where are our Spanish students or where are our, students that speak a different language, so we can know, okay, let's figure out how we can better service them. But let's hire those people that we know. Even those retired teachers. We have retired teachers who's taught those different languages who we could probably hire back, some who want to work part-time, some who want to work full-time, and we could hire them to come back and they can serve as translators for our students who have a hard time speaking English or vice versa.
Thank you for your answer. So my next question for you is in reference to the facility issue we have within the DPSCD district. So during the final weeks of classes, Detroit schools had to end their days early due to the hot weather and having no AC and around there within the facilities. This is one of the many issues, and if anything, one of you could even say a trivial issue compared to the other facility issues that we have within our buildings. How do you think this issue could be addressed by the DPSCD board?
Well, I believe that they are trying to implement something, but it's taking too long. Our schools, this is going into the 6th year of their leadership. I remember advocating then in 2015 for elected school board so we can get those things. And I don't think that we have received them just yet. There are certain schools that have air conditioning, but every school should have air conditioning if we know that that is a key problem. And so I believe that moving forward, we should address those things first. And so we're talking about this facility plan, talking about closing several schools and then opening new schools and building new schools. We should have attacked this issue first. This should have been one of the things that we attacked first, because then now students are at home without learning, or we're trying to do the virtual thing. The virtual thing is not working. And so now it's just creating more issues when we could have addressed it head on because we knew we had the resources. Some people just don't need to get paid the high salary that they have, and they should be addressing the needs of the students because we're saying that we're putting student first. Or then we say that our tagline is when students rise, we all rise, but they can't rise from at home because the heat, it was too hot outside. We had to be at home. And so then I remember days being in a building where the building was leaking, the roof was leaking. So it would rain and the building was leaking. I remember in the cold, the heat wasn't working. So we would have to be in the room shivering or had, space heaters. And so I think at the end of the day, our Detroit students deserve better, because the same thing that's going on in Detroit is not going on in West Bloomfield, Grosse Pointe, Ferndale, Avondale. It's not going on there. And so we should be represented just as well as those communities, and we should have the same things that those communities have. Thank you.
Hafiza, I don't mean to
Yes.
keep
yes. I'm part of an organization called My Student Stream. And we organize at the intersection of immigration justice and education justice. We created a survey with our youth at My Student Stream. And the survey is for school board candidates. We want to learn about their key issues and how they can support us. And so we wanted to ask if you would commit to filling out the survey that was created by the youth. And this can be sent within the next week.
Absolutely. I would love to do it. Any opportunity to do anything dealing with students or organizations that are student-based or student-focused, I'm the person to call.
Thank you.
So we are coming to the final questions of our interview, and I really appreciate you for being here. Thank you so much for all your answers today. Our last question for today is, if elected, would you commit to meeting with our youth within the 6 months of your election?
Absolutely. I think, I know I will commit to meeting continually throughout the years of my service. It's one thing when we could get elected and then say something and commit to something, don't do it. But I think it is important that the work that we do, that we always involve the future and our students and our young people, because that's what it's really all about. And so absolutely, I would love to commit, even if not elected, I would love to commit and be a part of the work. And so absolutely.
Thank you. We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Our students are advocating for equitable education for all of our youth in Detroit, and I know that they would appreciate your support in meeting nonetheless. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to working with you in the future. I know we asked a lot of questions, but was there anything that we didn't ask that you would have liked us to ask or for us to know?
Well, I think my platform.
Mhm.
And so I would just like to say that, when I was in school, there was a campaign for students called The Whole Child. The teachers caring about the whole child. So my platform is basically the whole district approach. So making the approach to the whole district. So talking about the students, talking about the teachers, talking about the principals, talking about the janitors, they deserve more pay. They deserve to be treated better. The janitor should not be treated more differently than the principal of the school. And so meeting the needs of the community, being more community involved with those that, like the organizations like you all and other organizations that I've been able to work with and meet with over the course of these last few months as a candidate, but also the last few years as a volunteer and as a board members of several organizations. But more involvement, more parent involvement, increasing our parent academy and parent enrichment. Our parents deserve to be at the tables. They deserve to know if we make a decision for our students, they should be at the tables. They should be the ones involved. And so I believe that's important, just as well as everything else. I think we answered all the questions, but I just wanted to highlight my platform, taking a whole district approach, meeting the needs, upward mobility in our district. Our teachers should not be a teacher for 30 years, especially if they have a certification to be an administrator. So we should be able to say, hey, you have your certification, you've been here 30 years, let's make you a principal, or let's make you an assistant principal. Instead of bringing in people from Florida, bringing in people from all over the other places, let's grow within our district, because we have people here, and it's nothing like growing up in the city of Detroit, working in the city of Detroit, knowing the history of the city of Detroit, and moving in a leadership role. And so I think that is the most important, is the upward mobility, and then providing resources for students. Hey, you need a job, we have an opportunity for you to come back and work. That's the most important thing, versus saying, hey, go off to college, we sent you, now we're done with you. No, you graduate, come back, give back, or even, hey, while you're through school, let's create a space for you to work here in the school part-time, or let's create a space for you to work virtually, or, and things like that. Let's support you while you're there in college. Let's support you while you're in your career. Let's support you so you can come back and give back. So I think those things are most important. Those are some of the things that's in my platform.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate all of you. And I appreciate the questions. If you have any questions and you have any events or opportunities, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I think, we've been in touch about our candidate forum on October 20th.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
And you're confirmed for that?
yes.
Okay, so folks will be in touch with you for that.
Okay,
In the near future, just kind of go into logistics. It's gonna be at Focus Hub that Thursday evening. We're expecting a really good turnout of parents and students. And then we'll also be live streamed as well.
all right, sounds good. I'm excited, can't wait. So
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
thank you so much.
Mhm.
Yeah, let us know if you do any events or have any articles or anything, send them to us. We're just trying to do a lot of voter education.
Okay, sounds good.
We're a 501c3